Hello, YouTube. All right, I'm going to do the usual checks. You might want to forward through this maybe a couple of minutes ahead because I got to make sure that there's no echo. And welcome. If you're watching, thank you. Please give it a like. Comment if you wish to comment. And if you want to share, that would be amazing. I think sound is good. It's probably still on the lowish side because I can't figure out what's wrong. But that's me. And hello, who's here? Somebody is here. Let's see who's here. Lindsley. Okay, I can't pronounce your name. Hi. You are a new name. I've not seen you before, but thank you for commenting and welcome. And the camera is a little bit angled down. I'm just going to fix it. Okay. So I wanted to come on here to talk about the title that you see there, which is probably going to change. And the thumbnail is probably also going to change depending on what I feel like doing. And welcome whoever is here. If you're catching me live, that's lovely. Please feel free to chit chat with me, ask questions, comment, give your opinion. And if you're watching it on replay, that's excellent. That's great. Thank you. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your support. The last live stream I did, which was very animated, maybe I should pin it or put it in the description. It's up to you. It's right before this one, where I was a little bit triggered and I came on here and I started ranting. Somebody left a couple of comments and he used an interesting word, which I come across a lot in the spiritual realm, in the spiritual world, in the spiritual community, be it in books, be it online. It doesn't matter, where you're going to hear this word, and it's the word that's in the title, which is the veil. We describe people who can see beyond the veil, or in whom the veil has been thinned. And part of why I come on here is I would like spirituality to become mainstream. I don't know when that's going to happen. It could be sort of a pipe dream, as they say. I don't know if I'm helping the cause or if I'm making it worse. I hope I'm helping. But spirituality will never become mainstream until we begin to demystify and decode some of the words that we use, some of the lingo, which the veil falls under. When you tell a mainstream person, a regular person who doesn't give two craps about spirituality, is completely unaware, unawake, doesn't know what the hell's going on, and trapped in the game of this life, of this world, and their ego runs the show. When you tell them all the people in which the veil has been thinned, when you say these words to them, they probably won't take you too seriously. They probably will laugh, think you're crazy. They don't understand what you mean. What veil, how has it been thinned? Who are these people? How do you expect me to take these people seriously? So I wanted to come on here because, as you know, I am reading, studying, I should say. I'm not reading. I'm actually heavily engrossed in Sufism study. And Sufism is a way of life, and Sufism is the spiritual aspect of Islam, which has been eradicated in my part of the world. There are a few Sufi teachers, but that still exist, and the main sort of guy that they fall under, they are related to. They are his children and grandchildren, and the only reason he survived is because he lived in the West. He lived in Europe at a time where Sufism was being eradicated in the Middle East. And his children and grandchildren remain living in the West, which is why they're able to spread the message in somewhat safety. Although, be it, they are very aware that, esoteric Islam, just like esoteric spirituality in the West, esoteric Christianity, if you may, is was targeted by the church. Esoteric Islam or Sufism is targeted by mainstream Islam. I don't want to get into that because I tend to go into politics, and I really don't want to get into politics, but I want to explain things. I don't come on here and talk to you out of, you know, I don't know what people think, but I am heavily engrossed in the study of spirituality, specifically Sufism, because that is what I have been called to do. There's a few spiritual people who live in the States, who live in the West, that I follow, who are spreading the word of Jesus, and they sort of have become heavily engrossed, not in the study, but in sort of doing something similar to what I am doing, which is demystifying, decluttering, cleaning up the image of Christianity in the West by infusing it with the original essence of Christ consciousness, or, esoteric teachings, which is great, which is true spirituality, not man-made religion, which has infected spirituality on this earth globally. So the thinning, wow, I went on a rant. The thinning of the veil, that term, I come across it in my Sufism study. It's used a lot. But unlike mainstream spirituality, which has become very superficial, very woo-woo, and kind of a joke, really, it makes it hard for people who are authentically spiritual, and I hope I fall in that category. It makes it hard for us to be taken seriously, because spirituality, again, has been infected with something that's fake. So they do dive into what they mean, what that word means, the veil. And this is what I decided to do this live stream for, to explain that term, because one of the goals, like I said, of me coming on here, of me having this channel, outside of wanting to get monetized and hopefully making money, which doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen, but here's hoping, is I would like for spirituality to be adopted by mainstream. I want this stigma that spiritual people are, they just, I don't know, it's been developed, it surrounds us, and it's not good. I want to challenge it. I want spirituality to become mainstream, and here's trying. So the veil is a term that's frequently used by a lot of people, and I do have my notes. But like I said, it's not understood by the majority, and I want to say it's not even understood by the people who use it. I'm not saying that the gentleman who commented on my last live stream doesn't understand what that word means. But the average human being, like I said, doesn't understand what that word means. The veil, in spiritual lingo, when we talk about people in whom the veil has been thinned and they can see beyond the veil, the seers, the shamans, the priests, the priestesses, the conscious human beings in whom the veil has been thinned. And I have my this, by the way, which I'm going to use as a prop at some point in this live stream, but I just wanted to put it on to sort of show you the veil. This is what people think of when you talk of a veil. They think of this veil. So the veil actually is a term, and again, this is from my spiritual teaching study in Sufism, is a term that's used to describe the lesser self, or the false self, or the egoic self. The veil is the persona that we believe ourselves to be in this world. It's the person that you identify with when you look in the mirror. This is me. This is me. I'm gorgeous. I have curly hair. I'm pretty. I'm this, I'm that. all the lower, lesser self, which tends to run the show in a good chunk, maybe, upwards of 80% of human beings on this planet, the egoic self, the lesser self, or the false self, the persona that they have developed for themselves and that they believe they are in this world, that's what runs the show in upwards of 80% of human beings on this planet. And it is why we are in the state that we are in right now as a collective. This veil, or this lesser self, lower self, or the egoic self, is the main cause of misery in human beings. And it is the cause of all wars and all devastation on this earth. Let me just read some of the comments. What? Okay, I'm going to, I don't know what this is. I'm going to hide this person from the channel. I'm going to hide this person. Oh no, I've already hidden them. There's a bot or a troll or some weirdo commenting, so I had to hide them. Maybe I shouldn't have disrupted my live to read the trolls' comments. But anyhow, back to what I was saying. The lesser self, the egoic self, is the main cause of all the misery that we create for ourselves, and then we blame other people, we blame this, we blame that, when in fact it is the egoic self. And I'm talking to you as someone who, though my ego has been humbled and I like to keep it in check, it's still there. It's still there, and I catch it every now and then, and it causes me a lot of misery. And it causes me a lot of suffering, because so long as we remain human on this planet, the ego will remain with you. Even though the veil has been thinned, your ego has been tamed a little bit. And when you tame your ego, you're able to begin to have some insight into what is beyond, what is behind the egoic self. And that is when you begin to connect and see and peek into your true self, your higher self. So it's called the veil because just like a veil, just like this, see this? You can't see me when I do this, can you? Maybe you can see a little bit of a shadow. I can make some movements and you'll think, oh, what the hell is behind that? Oh, whatever, I don't care. Because, I can't really see. It must be my imagination. It must be a coincidence. So it's called the veil because it hides what is beneath it. It hides what is behind it. And what's behind the veil, what is behind this shroud in all of us, by the way, is the higher self. It is your true self. And that is what happens. So the veil is code. The veil is spiritual lingo for the ego, for the lesser self. And like I said, that is the main shroud that clouds your vision, that clouds and prevents all communication that could be happening between you and your true self or your higher self. For me, personally, I find it very symbolic. By the way, as just taking a little bit of a detour. When I left Saudi Arabia, this is what I wore. This is the hijab that I wore as I was escaping, because you have to cover your face. And I kept it with me all these years. I escaped in 2003. That's when I left. So ironically enough, in my part of the world, which is changed a little bit now, if you don't do this, if a woman goes out and she doesn't look like this, her punishment, if her face isn't covered, if her identity is not hidden by a shroud, by a black shroud, her punishment ranges anywhere from, imprisonment to public lashings, to it could reach to a point where she's beheaded as well as disowned by her family. I just find that very interesting, considering the persecution that people, the historical persecution that people who became conscious, including if you believe in Jesus Christ or if you follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, and many before him and after him, the persecution that happens to these people because the veil has been thinned, because the ego has been tamed, because the higher self has come through and they began to see it and they began to communicate the message of the higher self in this world, they become targets. Right now in our world, even though, in different parts of the world, you can be targeted, you can be sort of hunted and persecuted if you belong to that group of people, the shamans, the seers, the priests and the priestesses, the conscious human beings that have been historically hunted, the Salem witch hunts, which I frequently refer to. And like the church hunted these people because the church wanted control, because, these people challenged the authoritative figures who wanted the terms priests to become a symbol, to become a thing of power, to become a thing of control, and to manipulate human beings. Throughout history, until today, the true seers are targeted. Nowadays, people come to my channel and laugh, like this troll that was just here. They mock and they laugh and they don't take you seriously, because that is what has happened historically. It's been diluted down to look at this crazy person who's talking about a veil and they're talking about spirituality. Oh my God, let's put a laughing emoji under their comment because they're crazy. All right, Tam C. Wa alaikum salam. Lucky to catch Noor of Arabia live again. It's always Tam C. It's always you, Tam. All right. Let me just drink a glass of water. So yeah, I just find it very symbolic that my part of the world, there is punishment if a woman covers her face, even though it is gender-based. And historically, people who the veil in which has been thinned have also been sort of persecuted, if you may. I guess I want to thank the person who left the comment in my last live, because it was that comment that brought in a lot of messages regarding how spirituality, we operate in code. And I wonder, rather than blaming the outside world, if we need to polish ourselves a little bit and bring ourselves down from the realm of spirituality and philosophy and mysticism and code words, and bring ourselves into this world a little bit so that people can begin to understand us, so that maybe we don't get hunted and ridiculed and laughed at. Thank you for, putting that word, the veil, for using that word. Where am I? Those in whom the veil has been thinned. How does it thin? They experience the thinning of the veil. If the veil, like I'm explaining to you, means the egoic self or the ego, it happens through an egoic death, which happened to yours truly during COVID, because of the mandates, specifically the mask mandates. I have a humongous trauma around being forced to cover my face. And I live in Canada, and Canada turned, it really showed you its fangs during COVID, Canada. Covering your face turned into a religion during COVID, at least in the province that I am in. At least that is what my experience was. I was chased by men. I was vilified. I was shouted at. I was targeted in the building that I live in. Everyone ignored. I got a doctor's note that I can't cover my face because of a trauma that happened to me where I was kidnapped by religious police because my face wasn't covered, and they covered my face by force and they kept it covered for 3 days as they did horrible things to me. I was forced to relive that during COVID because of the mandates. Without going into too much of a saga or a drama, because for the most part I'm over it. I'm giving you a description of the egoic self and how it dies through a traumatic event, through a catastrophic life event, which these life events, in the majority of human beings, turn them bitter, turn them sour, turn them hate-filled, blaming, judging. If there's a God, fuck God. I don't believe there's a God that would do this to my child, to me, to my baby, to this. The majority of humans, and I was one of them, any traumatic event that happened to me turned me into a bitter POS. Until COVID happened to me, that traumatic event was so big. And I remember when it happened because a man chased me in the building that I'm in, just like I was chased by men and kidnapped. And he reported me to the building, whatever authority people who came after. It was a long saga, but that is when the spiritual awakening happened. The false illusion that I had in my mind that I'm protected in Canada and that I will never have to experience being forced to cover my face against my will again shattered. And my ego died because a big part of my ego was the fact that I had escaped that part of the world and I'm good here. I'm protected here. Nobody can touch me. Sure enough, I was touched. So it took me a while, but my ego was very, very, very much humbled. That was a big egoic death for me. I've had many tiny egoic deaths after. I'm actually still going through one right now because the ego never truly dissolves. The ego is a huge component of who we are, and it infiltrates multiple aspects of our lives and we don't even know it. But the veil was thinned in me during that time period. And that's when I began to pay attention to communication that is coming through from my higher self, which before I would have ignored, which before I would have thought this was a coincidence, which before I would have laughed at seeing 11:11 at a specific time, signaling me to a specific thing. I would have ignored all of this because I lived under a heavy shroud, a very, very thick shroud called my ego. And that is what happens to people this is why I call this channel the Desert Seer. I don't see into the future. People think, oh, she's a liar, she's a charlatan, she's a witch, she's this, she's that, what can she see? And they come and they book tarot reading appointments with me and they waste an entire hour trying to prove to themselves that I'm a liar. You just paid $60 for a tarot reading, and instead of making use of the fact that you are in the presence of someone who can see, who can communicate, who can sense things that perhaps you can't, and there's a reason for that, you wasted that hour to prove to yourself that you're right and I'm wrong. I don't know. The shroud, that heavy shroud, covers your soul. If you don't like the word soul, if you consider there's no evidence for the soul, it covers your true self, who you truly are, the being that you came here to be before you became programmed, before you became conditioned by everything around you, by society, by family, by school, by ego. It's who you came here to be. And every time a devastating life event happens to us, what we should do is sit down and be humbled and allow the ego to be tamed instead of doubling down and getting angry and sinking in our vibration. When you elevate your vibration through a traumatic or catastrophic life event, the veil thins. The ego is humbled. And when the more you elevate, the closer you get to your higher self, until you find yourself pretty much looking your higher self in the eye, very easily able to communicate, very easily able to see what you lived a good chunk of your life not believing in and not seeing. And I think that's it. I added a little bit of drama for effect, but I'm gonna keep it, you know, I don't want to go into too many sort of stories, but that is what I wanted to come on here and talk to you about. This term, the thinning of the veil, and spirituality. In spirituality, there's a lot of, it's difficult to understand because it is heavily infused with these code words, with this lingo. And I'm going to try to, every now and then, come on here and explain this lingo to those who don't want to troll, who are truly interested and want to understand spirituality, rather than shut it out and shut spiritual people out, because we are also human beings. You know, we could be your neighbor, we could be your mother, we could be your father, we could be your daughter, could be your, student, could be your teacher. We are in society and we're growing in numbers. And there's no point in adding to the divide of this world, because this world is about as divided as we can get. It sadly, it's where we're at. Rather than adding to that division and refusing to, engage regular folk who don't understand, who do come on here and mock and troll and laugh and don't believe, maybe we should try to, maybe we should, extend a hand to those who laugh and mock and don't want to understand and just want to challenge, because in them, the veil is not thin. The veil is very, very thick. And they're blinded by the veil. And that's it. That's it. I learned this thanks to the books that I'm reading, by the way. I learned a lot thanks to the books that I'm reading, and I continue to learn a lot. And I continue to learn from my higher self. And I continue to allow my higher self access to me and passage through me. I don't want to go back to what I was. I am very grateful to the person that I was. I am very grateful to the person that I am, and I can't wait to see the person I'm going to become, because I continue to allow my higher self in. And I love my higher self, and I love my soul, and I care for it, and I'm thankful for it, because it gives me the life force energy that allows me to be who I am. And just FYI, we are passing through a very interesting energetic phase right now, and I'm just going to touch on it lightly. That phase is, a lot of us are reaching a point where we're fed up with the lack of change, with the lack of us being able to manifest the big things that we want in life. I know I've reached that point. I'm just done. I'm like, this life doesn't resonate with me anymore. Not because I'm superior to the place that I'm at. I'm just tired of the same old, and I'm waiting. I'm like, I feel like I'm ready for the next big step for me. I want to manifest all these big things that I deserve, that will help me continue down this path that I feel like is mine. I'm done with the old. There's nothing here for me anymore. and I'm just sitting like it's hard because you're like you throw a tantrum with your higher self, and you're like, why am I still here? Get me out of here. you know? So that's the energetic phase that we're passing through right now. And it's not just me. A lot of spiritual people that I do sort of follow and they resonate with me are at that point as well. I was thinking it was just me, but it seems like there's a theme going on. Just wanted to put it out there in case you're feeling this. Sit in it, simmer, calm down, don't have a tantrum, or have it, but come back to yourself and center yourself. It's coming. It's just taking its sweet time because that's what divine timing does. All right? Any comments for me? I would love to go into my Patreon, and I might, to do a tarot reading because I just feel like I need to do a tarot reading in my Patreon. So hopefully this live stream was a little bit lighthearted, not too much heavy duty like the last one I did, where I was screaming and shouting and I was very animated. And I do, I have to catch myself. Every now and then I let loose. It is what it is. I do see it though. And I'm very thankful and grateful for everyone who watches, everyone who shares, comes back to watch again, and for the comments, because sometimes the comments give me ideas. So I'm very, very thankful and grateful to you. Any comments for me? Questions? Whoever is here. Before I run over to my Patreon and do a tarot reading. All right. This live is a sign for me. Thank you so much. Oh, that's great. Excellent. I'm very happy. Would you like to share? How? You don't have to. You're welcome to, though. I'm very, very happy when I read comments. I don't need praise. I don't want praise, actually. People who praise my hair and praise this and praise that, it doesn't really do much because praising is for the ego. My soul feels nice, feels good, feels happy when I read comments like this. Like this live was a sign for me. That's what it's why I do these lives, you know? Plus, you know, the fact that I come on here and rant is also lovely. Plus connecting with you. Connecting with you is very important. I might not say it a lot, but this little tiny community that I have on here, you know, as small as it is it for me. I do not have much friends. I don't. I actually don't have any friends. All right? There. Made you sad. I don't have friends. My best friend is my higher self. And it's more than enough for me. More than enough. I dressed up festive for you guys today. Got my Christmas tree up. I might put a picture in my Patreon of my Christmas tree. Anyways, all right. The light in me, as always, and will always bow down to the light within you. Thank you so much. Please like, please comment, please subscribe, and should you wish to, please share.